Thursday, 9 in the morning. And here's everything you need to know at this hour right now. To make sure you don't miss anything important, subscribe to the TSN channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. Well, let's get started. At night, the Russians struck an educational institution in Sumy, causing a fire to break out there. The blast wave shattered windows in nearby apartment buildings and damaged cars. According to preliminary information, no people were injured, as reported by the acting mayor of Sumy, Artem Kobzar. At this point, the fire has already been extinguished. A vehicle carrying volunteers who were evacuating people from the Kherson region hit a mine while leaving Berislav. A police officer was tragically killed, and 2 of his colleagues as well as 2 innocent civilians were wounded. The Russians heavily shelled Belozerka with artillery. They hit residential buildings. 2 local residents were slightly injured. A 28-year-old woman was wounded in the Dnipropetrovsk region. The enemy struck the Nikopol district with drones and artillery. A local cafe, 6 private houses, essential power lines, and a gas pipeline were significantly damaged. The wounded woman was promptly hospitalized. She is in moderate condition. Several Russian drones recently hit the Mezhivska community in the Sinelnikivsky district. Private homes caught fire there. On Polish territory, the remains of 16 drones and fragments of a missile have already been found, indicating the widespread impact. Polish media are publishing a map of yesterday's air attack. The drones that entered Polish airspace were deliberately targeted there, said Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski. Attempts to shift responsibility for the air attack onto Ukraine, allegedly claiming that the drones deviated from their course, were called Russian propaganda by the Polish foreign minister. On the night before Wednesday, the country was attacked by 19 drones, and 4 of them were shot down by the neighboring country's air force. As a result of the air attack, a residential building was damaged. Several airports had to be closed, and Polish territorial defense soldiers were urged to be ready for a call-up on short notice. Prime Minister Donald Tusk convened an emergency government meeting. At the same time, Warsaw summoned the Russian diplomat. NATO's Article 4 was activated within the alliance. This article allows member states to draw the attention of the North Atlantic Council to the situation and discuss it with their allies. EU countries are expressing their solidarity with Warsaw and its right to self-defense, while relevant officials are calling for the construction of a drone wall on Europe's eastern flank. Expanding cooperation with partners for reliable air defense and assisting Poland with warning systems was how the president of Ukraine responded to the massive Russian missile and drone attack, which also targeted a NATO country. According to Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine has long been proposing to its Western partners to create a joint air defense system and to ensure the guaranteed downing of drones and missiles through the combined power of combat aviation and air defense systems. He says that real joint actions in the sky will guarantee the safety of neighboring countries. Kyiv can also help Warsaw build an adequate warning and protection system against such Russian threats. Moscow always tests the limits of what is possible, and if it does not encounter a strong response, it remains at a new level of escalation, the president wrote on Telegram. The Russians struck the central square of Kramatorsk, residential neighborhoods, and the market with drones. As a result of the attack, 3 people were injured, including a 16-year-old teenager. An elderly woman was wounded in her own apartment. She was hospitalized. Rescuers had to free residents who were unable to leave their homes on their own. The building's facade was damaged, and windows and balconies were shattered. And right during the evacuation, another enemy drone deliberately struck law enforcement officers and firefighters. Kremlin aggression against Ukraine 2022.
That's it? It's going down now. Don't cry, Bunny.
That's it, don't cry, kitty. That's it, no need to cry. Don't cry, don't cry.
No need. It's all right, my dear Bunny. There's no need to worry. It's okay, kitty. Please don't cry. That's it, it hit. Everything flew out. I cannot clean up the glass. The whole house is covered in glass. Honestly, I thought the sky had torn apart. Oh my God. Oh my God. How much longer are you, you terrible beast, going to keep hitting already? Oh God, oh God.
There are already 25 dead and 18 wounded. These are the consequences of the airstrike on the village of Yarova in Donetsk region. On Tuesday, the Russians struck with aerial bombs precisely at the moment when people were receiving their pensions. The 5 most seriously wounded were taken to Dnipro. Our TSN correspondent Olha Pavlovska found out what condition they are in and whether there is any hope of saving them.
Mrs. Tetiana is just being brought from the operating room to the intensive care unit. She has multiple injuries all over her body, and the most dangerous fragment which pierced her neck has just been removed by the doctors.
This is before the surgery. The vertebral artery is very important for our body. It supplies blood to the posterior parts of the brain, that is, the brainstem and vital organs.
68-year-old Miss Polina asks not to show her face. She had already left Yarova in the summer to get away from the front line. However, she returned to collect her pension and then came under attack.
I came for my pension. I hadn't even managed to withdraw it or transfer it to my card yet. I thought, I'll withdraw this, since it's already transferred to my account. I had approached, people were getting their money, and then there were dead bodies lying there. These are the consequences of the strike.
There were a lot of people here. There was a lot of blood, a lot of it indeed. Pieces of clothing.
These are the first minutes after the strike. Dozens dead and dozens wounded. Almost all of them were elderly people waiting in line for their pensions. The most severe case is 71-year-old Vasil. He was taken to Dnipro in a coma.
His current condition is extremely serious. You could truly say it is critically grave. A significant part of his intestine is completely gone. His entire side is tragically missing. It was just violently torn away. Furthermore, her legs are very badly injured.
She was just watering flowers in the square. Municipal worker Ms. Olena says she saw people gathering to collect their pensions while she was working. She came to her senses already injured with fractures after the powerful explosion.
She was thrown by the blast wave. You could see how she ended up under the bench, how she was tossed. It just blew up, completely torn apart. Panic, everyone is running, people are screaming. Her leg was torn off, completely destroyed. It's all so terrifying.
Doctors are already preparing for a series of complex surgeries. They hope to successfully remove the fragment that pierced Ms. Valentina's spine.
We have removed this fragment, and if the wound heals completely without any inflammation, I think she has every good chance to walk.
As for Miss Polina, doctors are currently trying to save her arm.
The fragment actually entered the middle third of the shoulder, then traveled along the bone, subsequently broke the bone, and ultimately remained there. There is always a chance, but unfortunately the older the patient becomes, the fewer chances there are for a positive outcome. This is a feature of physiology, and the bones are very fragile.
The condition of all 5 of these wounded remains serious. The other 13 people injured in the village of Yarova are currently receiving assistance in Donetsk region. Ola Pavlovska, Alexander Kulish, Dnipro, TSN 1+1.
After the air bomb was dropped on the center of Yarova, locals called law enforcement asking for evacuation. The rescue mission by the White Angels took place under extremely difficult conditions as the sky was filled with enemy drones. However, the local residents are now so eager to leave that when they see the evacuation vehicle, they jump inside just as they are, without hesitation. The day before, law enforcement officers managed to evacuate 8 locals, including a mother with her 8-year-old daughter and a woman with limited mobility. All of them are now safe. Mined roads and drones overhead. Under such conditions, Kherson police officers evacuated a 70-year-old woman from the frontline village of Havrilivka. The village elder asked the police to take the pensioner out from under shelling to her relatives. Law enforcement officers carefully planned the rescue operation at night, since the front line is very close and it is extremely dangerous during the day. They helped the villager quickly pack her belongings, but didn't expect such a large amount because in addition to the usual things, she also wanted to take a considerable harvest of onions with her. In the end, they persuaded the woman to leave the vegetables behind and successfully brought her to a safe place.
All right, it worked. Give me the pillow. It's packed over there. Okay, Grandma, let's go before the drone comes. Get in the car. Come on, get in. Grandma, we'll give you some onions there. We could all end up staying here because of your onions. How do you not understand? Get in quickly.
The TSN broadcast continues. We remind you that we're waiting for your comments and don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you don't miss the most important and interesting updates. And now I'll continue. A gruesome murder in Vinnytsia region. In the city of Sharhorod, 2 teenagers died on their way to school. A passerby discovered the bodies of 10th and 11th grade students yesterday morning on one of the streets. Preliminary reports indicate that they suffered stab wounds, including to the neck. The children died while receiving medical assistance. The police have already detained a suspect who may be involved in the murder. It is known that the suspect is 23 years old. According to the prosecutor's office, he is the boy's former teacher. Investigators are working to determine the motives for the crime and other circumstances of the tragedy.
The boys arrived by school bus to attend classes at the Lyceum in Sosnivka, but they were on their way to the hospital to get medical certificates. And then the perpetrator, a local resident, an English teacher, and a young man caught up with them. And that's when the tragic event unfolded. He was employed at the very same school as an English instructor, a position he had held for some time. Throughout the academic year, there had been a series of underlying issues and various inconsistencies that had surfaced within the school environment, creating a noticeable tension and disruption. Apparently, it was on this basis that the tragedy occurred. He was dismissed from his job back in March, and the school principal was also dismissed because there were certain legal violations, so we let them go. But from March until this very day, he had not been employed anywhere at all, and now he has indeed done precisely what he has quite done.
SBU General Vityuk, who is suspected of illegal enrichment and providing false information in his declarations, has been released on bail. He posted a bail amount of 9,084,000 hryvnias. The former head of the SBU Cybersecurity Department is suspected of purchasing a premium-class apartment worth over 21 million hryvnias from unclear sources of income. The transaction was carried out 2 years ago by his wife, and the apartment in the capital's residential complex was registered in her name, while the declared value was halved. The SBU called the charges against Vityuk an act of revenge by anti-corruption agencies, claiming that the security service had detained several NABU employees in July. The scandal was further fueled by an attempt to serve a mobilization notice to the journalist investigator, who was the first to reveal the story about the SBU general's luxury real estate. President Zelensky dismissed Vityuk from his position in the security service. But the former head of the Khmelnytsky Medical and Social Expertise Center, Tetiana Krupa, who is suspected of illegal enrichment, still hasn't managed to raise the 20 million hryvnias needed for bail, even though during the searches at the official's home, who issued disability certificates, it was clear that her entire house was stuffed with cash. There were piles of dollars lying around, even in the bathroom. Despite not posting bail, a few days ago Krupa was released from the detention center, where she had spent 11 months. It is currently unknown where the suspect is. The first barrier-free sports complex for veterans in Ukraine has opened in Kyiv. There are no barriers on the grounds of the new stadium, and all areas are accessible to people in wheelchairs. The sports complex was built on the site of the old Lokomotiv Stadium in the capital city, which had been abandoned for a long period of time. Now there are well-maintained fields for football, volleyball, and basketball, outdoor exercise equipment and convenient changing rooms, as well as indoor sports facilities with dedicated rehabilitation rooms. Since first and foremost, this sports complex is intended for veterans and their rehabilitation through sports. The reconstruction of the stadium was funded by American philanthropist Howard Buffett. He personally came to see the results of the construction, talked with veterans, and played football and pétanque. This is a game that is also very much used for the rehabilitation of the wounded.
The Lokomotiv Chokolivka Sports Complex, or Loko Choko, as we affectionately call it, was completely reconstructed on the very site of a stadium that had not been in active use for more than 30 long years. And Vinnytsia found patrons who were genuinely concerned about the fate of this stadium and turned it into a cool, barrier-free, inclusive stadium. Essentially, it is the first in Ukraine with such a variety of sports and such accessibility for our military personnel and veterans. In general, the main idea was to create a sports center for the post-rehabilitation of our military, our Ukrzaliznytsia employees who also have certain injuries, and for people with amputations, for people in wheelchairs and so on. So essentially, this is meant to become a great sports hub for the city and for all of Ukraine, because we also plan to hold tournaments here.
The TSN team is keeping track of all the most relevant news. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next episodes and stay up to date with all the events. And be sure to comment on anything that interests you and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have a great Thursday.